Have you ever wondered if your quirky habits, your tendency to overthink every little detail, or even your desire to be alone, might actually be a sign of something more? We often grow up thinking that high intelligence is strictly about acing calculus tests, memorizing encyclopedias, or having a high GPA. We look at the smart kid in class and assume that is the only definition of genius. But psychology tells a very different, and frankly, much more interesting story. True intelligence often hides in plain sight. It is found in the way you handle uncertainty, how you spend your free time, and even, believe it or not, how lazy you allow yourself to be. If you have ever felt like you just don't fit the mold, or you prefer deep silence over small talk, you might be wired differently than the average person. Today, we are cracking the code on the secret psychology of highly intelligent people to see if you fit the profile. Welcome back to Psychology Algorithm. I am really glad you are here for this one. Today, we aren't just listing high IQ traits like a checklist. We are diving deep into the personality, the specific thinking styles, and the daily habits that science links to high intelligence. We are going to look at why smart people often doubt themselves while others are confidently wrong, why they crave solitude, and why they might be the most empathetic people in the room, which runs completely contrary to the cold, unfeeling genius stereotype we see in movies. By the end of this video, you might just discover that you share more in common with the world's greatest minds than you realized. So, I have a quick question for you before we start. Do you think intelligence is something you are born with, or is it a habit you build over time? Let me know your stance in the comments right now, because the answer might actually be a mix of both. I'd love to see what you think. Now, let's get into the psychology behind these traits. If you look at the big 5 personality traits, there is one that correlates with high IQ more than any other, and it is called openness to experience. Research consistently shows that highly intelligent people have a voracious appetite for the unknown. They don't just tolerate new ideas, they hunt for them. This is that curiosity factor you always hear about, but it goes deeper than just reading a lot of books or watching documentaries. It is about a cognitive hunger. If you are the type of person who gets bored with the status quo and constantly needs to explore complex concepts, abstract art, or even just strange what-if scenarios, that is a hallmark of high intelligence. You are constantly seeking to expand your mental map of the world. Now here is a major myth we need to bust. We often see movies depicting the genius as a tortured soul, moody, unstable, and difficult to be around. But psychological studies actually suggest the opposite. High intelligence is often linked to lower neuroticism and higher emotional stability. Smart people tend to be better at regulating their emotions because their brains are efficient at processing data, and that includes emotional data. They also score higher in empathy and compassion. Why? Because empathy requires a high level of cognitive processing. You have to be able to step outside your own reality and simulate someone else's perspective in your mind. That takes significant brain power. So, if you are generally calm, curious, and deeply empathetic, you are actually ticking the first few boxes of the high IQ profile. Let's move on to thinking styles. Have you ever caught yourself analyzing, well, your own analysis? This is called metacognition. It is literally thinking about thinking. Highly intelligent people have a constant background process running where they monitor their own understanding. Because they are constantly checking their own logic, they are actually more likely to admit when they are wrong. This brings us to a really interesting paradox known as the Dunning-Kruger effect, but in reverse. You might think smart people are arrogant know-it-alls, but actually, true intelligence is comfortable with the phrase, "I don't know." This is what psychologists call comfort with ambiguity. While the average person might rush to find a quick answer just to resolve the tension of not knowing, a highly intelligent person is okay with leaving a question mark hanging in the air. They would rather explore the uncertainty than accept a simple, wrong answer. They also have incredible pattern recognition. They can connect the dots between two things that seem totally unrelated. For example, they might be talking about biology and suddenly connect it to the stock market or architecture. To others, it looks like their mind is wandering, or they are being random. But in reality, they are seeing a bridge between those topics that no one else sees. Do you do this? Do you find yourself making weird connections during conversations that confuse your friends? That is your pattern recognition firing on all cylinders. Now let's talk about habits, specifically social habits. There is a common stereotype that smart people are antisocial. That is not quite right. It is more accurate to say they are selectively social. There is a concept in evolutionary psychology called the savanna theory of happiness. It suggests that for most people, social interaction increases happiness, but for highly intelligent people, it can actually have the opposite effect. Research suggests that for this group, socializing can sometimes have a negative return on life satisfaction if it is too frequent or superficial. They crave what psychologists call reflective listening and deep conversation. Small talk about the weather or celebrity gossip can feel physically draining. They would much rather have a 3-hour conversation about the future of humanity with one person than spend 3 hours mixing with 20 people talking about nothing. They also need solitude. This isn't because they don't like people. It's because their brains are high-energy machines that need downtime to process everything they've absorbed. Solitude is where the magic happens. It's where they connect those patterns we talked about earlier. If you often feel the need to withdraw from the world just to hear yourself think, don't feel bad about it. You aren't being a hermit. You are protecting your mental resources. Here is my favorite trait, and it might surprise you. Strategic laziness. Bill Gates once famously said he'd choose a lazy person to do a hard job because they find an easy way to do it. Highly intelligent people are obsessed with efficiency. They view mental energy as a limited resource. They will often spend a lot of time planning, prioritizing, and figuring out how not to do work, just so they can conserve energy for the things that actually matter. They avoid low-value tasks like the plague. But there is a flip side to this, a dark side, and that is perfectionism. Because highly intelligent people have such high internal standards, they can get easily frustrated, both with themselves and with others. They can see exactly how good something could be. So when reality falls short, it's painful. This can sometimes lead to procrastination, not because they can't do the work, but because they are afraid it won't meet their own impossibly high standards. It is a form of paralysis where the fear of making a mistake outweighs the desire to finish the task. So, let's recap what we have covered today. High intelligence isn't just a number on a test. It is a personality that is open and curious. It is a mind that questions itself and is comfortable saying, "I don't know." It is a habit of seeking solitude to recharge, and a drive for efficiency that can sometimes look like laziness. If you recognized yourself in these descriptions, you might be operating on a different frequency than those around you. And that is a good thing. The world needs that depth, that curiosity, and that unique perspective. I want to hear from you. Which of these traits do you relate to the most? Is it the need for solitude, the strategic laziness, or maybe the struggle with perfectionism? Leave a detailed comment below. I read as many as I can, and I love hearing your stories. If you found value in this video, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow and reach more minds like yours. And don't forget to subscribe to Psychology Algorithm and turn on notifications so you never miss a deep dive into the human mind. Thanks for watching, and keep thinking.